one more session this week. But really excited that I get to do this one because this is a topic that we've had, I think, a lot of interest in over the past few weeks. We've had a lot of questions about this during other live streams. I've seen a lot of questions in the Discord. So today, the focus is all on the web and how to add web purchases to your mobile app. We're going to cover app to web, web to app to web to app, every connotation therein we're gonna cover. So yeah, looking forward to diving into this one, and really excited to have not one, not two, but three very special guests here with us. We've got two members of the RevenueCat team, Perttu, who some of you will be used to seeing by now. He's been on the last couple of live streams, but also Ed from our product team, and then a very, very special guest, Andrew from Paddle. So yeah, why don't we kick things off, guys, and do a quick intro. If you can just tell everyone a little bit about yourselves, what you do, and then we'll go from there. So yeah, Perttu, do you want to kick off, and then Ed and Andrew?
Yeah, I'm Perttu. I'm a developer advocate at RevenueCat, so I help people to figure out how to monetize their, well, React Native and Flutter apps, but of course like Swift and Kotlin apps as well. And web purchase is one thing that you could consider, for example, and therefore Paddle as well.
Cool. Yeah, I'm Ed. I'm on the product team, so I'm a senior product manager working on all things web. So this is my world, whether it's coming from an app or from some other source. We're trying to figure out how to make it easier for developers to sell things on the web, specifically mobile developers who are looking to add web revenue.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone. My name is Andrew. I serve Paddle as Chief Innovation Officer. I've been the CMO there for 3.5 years until I transitioned into this role, and formerly was a founder, software founder, and also invest in B2B and consumer across SaaS and apps. And delighted to be with you. Anything that's about more revenue is something that's close to my heart. So
awesome. And Andrew, I'm gonna put you on the spot, and I haven't prepped you for this. So when we have new joiners starting at RevenueCat, one of the questions they have to answer in front of the whole company is what is their favorite like go-to app right now. So I'm gonna put you on the spot and ask you what app are you currently using? What's your go-to?
Okay, I'm going to give a shout out to someone who has just launched today. I have to fly all over the world to meet customers and prospects, and I hate travel booking systems. And a friend and former colleague of me has just launched the Great British Takeoff instead of the Great British Bake Off, which is an AI flight search engine to find the best deals for complicated flights around the world. So that's what I'm currently spending a couple of hours fighting with bugs and giving feedback on.
I love the name. That's yeah, for any non-British people dialing in, that might be a little bit lost on them. But yeah, that's a very apt name for an app if you're a Great British Bake Off fan. Awesome. Okay, well, thank you all of you for joining. I appreciate it, and yeah, looking forward to getting into this. But before we do, just the usual reminder to everybody: these sessions, they're for you. So please ask questions. If you're listening on Livestorm, you can use the questions feature or drop them in the chat, and we'll make sure that we answer them. If you're listening on YouTube or X or LinkedIn or anywhere else, then you can dive in and use the Discord as well. Just a general plug for the Discord: if you're taking part in Shipaton this year and you're not a member of the Discord, go and join it. Really great place to connect with other participants. There's a ton of RevenueCat folks in there, so if you're struggling with anything related to RevenueCat, you can get some help. And then there are some members of the Paddle team as well, so anything that comes up today and that you don't understand or you have questions with after this, then the Discord is the place to go to get an answer. So yeah, head over there and make use of it. And then very quickly, as is tradition with these live streams, we want to start by spotlighting a couple of the projects that we've seen that are taking part in our Build in Public category. It's one of our prize categories this year. And this is really all about, shining a light on people that are, well, the clue is in the name, building in public, kind of sharing their progress as they go, sharing their learnings. And we kind of spend a bit of time each week looking through some of the kind of standout projects. And so there are a couple here that we wanted to highlight and to point everybody to go and have a look at for a little bit of inspiration. And so my example that I've picked up this week is an app called Pocket Shelf. I realize now that the screen grab I've done is very, very small, so difficult to see. But this app is all about trying to encourage you to read more books, kind of create a collection of books that you've read and encourage you to finish them. Perfect for someone like me, because I have about 10 books on my bedside table that I've read maybe less than a third of each. So I'll definitely be using this once it gets shipped. But this tweet that they put out over the weekend highlights the onboarding flow that they've built. Really, really slick design, personalized flow, and just a great example of how to, oh, I'm skipping slides. Yeah, how to build a great onboarding flow. So go have a look at that. Go check it out. We have a best design award category this year as well, and so I definitely think this one could be a contender for that. But good one to have a look at for a bit of inspiration. So yeah, wanted to give that one a shout out. The Posturally app, is that Perttu, Ed? I can't remember who is this one, Ed.
Yeah, that's me. So the context on this is, I mean, I was scrolling through the feed, and this one instantly resonated with me, mostly because I'm trying harder over time to not slouch at my desk. You notice everybody in the room right now adjusts posture as I say that. So yeah, this is Indian Cube artist who's building an app called Posturally, using some really cool like real-time phone-based and other sensor-based posture tracking. And so this app is kind of tracking real time and giving kind of a rating of posture. And there's kind of audio cues when you drop below a certain score as well in real time. And then secondly, I really like the branding of the app here. It's kind of like a nice cherry on the cake, so to speak, to kind of give a really friendly interface to this thing. So I'm actually really looking forward to checking out this app when it's available.
Yeah, very, very cool. I've seen that one as well in my feed when I've been scrolling through. So I'm glad you picked that one. And yeah, as a reminder to everybody as well, we mentioned this last week, but we're officially halfway through the Shipaton window. But by no means does that mean it's too late. There's still 4 weeks left. And if you scroll through the feed, you'll see that some people are just starting. There's lots of people just kicking off their projects. So yeah, if you need a bit of inspiration or you want to get some comfort that you're not the only one still in the early days, then the Building Public hashtag is the place to go to do that. Okay, and then a quick recap of some in-person events that we've had recently. So on the screen, you'll see a few pictures of Charlie. So Charlie, your Shipaton captain, who has been AWOL in Asia. He's been completing the Asian swing of our global Shipaton tour. Some pictures there of him in Taiwan and in Korea. He was at a couple of events meeting lots of people taking part in Shipaton. So if you sought Charlie out and said hello, thank you for doing so. I know he had a great time connecting with lots of folks over there. And then there was an event on Saturday in Colombia. So we had a group, I think it was hosted by a group called Apti, maybe, or Apti, I can't remember. But they put on a hackathon. Participants had 12 hours to come up with their idea, to build it and get it as close to shipping to the stores as possible. And then I saw the picture with a novelty check, and I had to double check that was in pesos and not in dollars, because that would be an unbelievable prize if that was in dollars. But I have been told it was in pesos, but still a good prize. But I've seen some of the apps that have come out of that, and there's some really impressive stuff that was built. So thank you to everybody involved in organizing the event. It looked like a great time. But we still have more. We still have more events coming. We have more events being added to our River page every week. So we do a plug for this on every live stream. If you're interested in meeting up with other folks taking part in Shipaton in person, or some of the events actually are virtual as well, then head to the events page, check out what's coming up, and you'll be able to kind of filter by location and by date, and join an event if there is one near you. It looks like there's one in Helsinki on Friday, which Perttu is your stomping ground. So you'll be there, right? You'll be there in person?
I'll be there talking about virtual currencies, which is, I haven't seen a single Shipaton app yet with virtual currencies. So if you're waiting for a monetization idea, that's something I would look into. And actually, I want to highlight also that Flutter Tokyo meetup. I think Jai Wong, one of our developer advocates, is also gonna talk there a bit remotely, I think, but still taking part in that.
Super awesome. So yeah, as a reminder, head to the River page. You can find the link from our like shipaton.com homepage, and that's where you can register for these events. Cool. I think that is everything from me to start with. So I'm going to stop sharing, and Andrew, I will hand over to you to take it from here. Fantastic.
Thank you so much, Matt. And yes, I fully hope that the 1 million prize is a dollar prize for next year. Shipaton's got to be bigger and better in 2026, right? So
don't. There's a thing at RevenueCat, when you say something, you speak it into existence, and I fear that you've done that. And if Rick is listening, like, there's going to be a thing.
Hey, Rick's a big thinker, so I know he'll smash it one way or the other. Love it. Okay, cool. Well, great to be with you all today. I know we've got people from all around the world here. I love this about our combined audiences. There are people from every little town and city across not just Europe, but America, APAC, down in Australia and New Zealand. So wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining in. We're going to talk quickly about web monetization. This is a hot topic. I know lots of people have been asking questions and talking about it. Obviously, we've built an integration, RevenueCat built an integration with Paddle, which we're delighted about. And we've got some apps making money through that channel, and we'll talk a bit about that today. And then I believe Ed is going to be diving in and giving us a great demo. So I will try to get out of the way as soon as possible so he can do that. Just as a bit of context, Paddle, it's a business that's been around for about 10, 11 years. We've got about 6,000 different customers we serve. A lot of these are web businesses, and a lot of them are multi-channel businesses. But over the last couple of years, we've just seen an increasing number of consumer mobile-first businesses want to scale a web revenue. And we'll work out kind of why in a minute. There's a few of the logos of the companies we're working with there. And so we operate around the world, about 6,000 customers, and gone through a real growth spurt over the last year or two, particularly on the back of people trying to make sure they can make revenue outside of the main app stores. And people focus so much on the economics here, the fee difference, but it's not just about that. A lot of this is around the ability to experiment faster, the ability to have perhaps some better attribution or better data, faster cash flow turn, so get your money back faster. It's not locked up into the App Store ecosystem. Greater control over that kind of onboarding flow. And so there's a whole bunch of things we're going to talk through today, but those are some of the drivers behind why people are doing this. And I got to be honest, when I first started speaking to app companies who wanted to launch web funnels or some form of web monetization, my assumption was it was largely about the fee. Often it isn't. I was speaking to a very, very significant app out of New York a couple of days ago, and they were very clear that it's about finding a new audience. There are people in their audience that buy on web but don't buy on the App Store. I know that feels odd to all of us app native people, but there's some categories of audiences that actually prefer to buy on the web and do that more often. And so that was one of their reasons for doing it. So if we just lay out these three, just to try and be really clear here, the middle strand here is what we've all done historically. With marketing, it might be an ad, it might be organic ASO, etc. We're going through to the App Store, an app install, and then some form of in-app purchase and app usage. Then we've now got these two other options. The bottom one is the web to app flow, which is where you're running ads or search or something to drive people to a web landing page. And then there's probably an onboarding questionnaire. That's the cool thing that everyone's been doing, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be an onboarding questionnaire. It could be something other than a funnel. And then you take them to a web paywall and a web checkout, and then route them into the app for usage. And there's also now the app to web flow, which is where you run that traditional app marketing, but at the point of purchase, you pop a web view so that they can actually purchase outside of the App Store. And, I'm sure we'll all be very bored to go through all the legal issues around here that have been going through the courts in the US and in the EU. But a lot of that, I think really I'd summarize the growth in this being around ruling and tooling. The rulings have meant that the app stores have opened up, but also that people have had visibility on what's possible, whereas previously big apps have done this. And then secondly, the tooling. Lots of companies, RevenueCat right at the forefront have started to make this more possible and easier. Therefore, smaller scaling apps are doing this at an earlier stage before you can build out big web teams like the major consumer apps of yesteryear had to do. So there's all of these options available to us. And as I said, there's a whole bunch of different reasons. And if we split these between web to app and app to web, it's important to note that some of these benefits are web to app specific. So yes, we've got the transaction fees depending on your region, where the consumer is, the customer relationship and how tight that is, attribution, expansion of audience, the cash flow cycle time, and the ability to keep experimenting. But when you go app to web, you lose a couple of those because you're obviously not going to get the same attribution benefits because you're still doing the marketing through the app store, and then the audience expansion, the same thing. The one thing I just wanted to kind of make sure everyone is aware of, because it's something that's been, you know, top of the list of conversations we've been having with app founders, is the way you then monetize and how you monetize, how you take payments. We summarize this up at do more or DIY trying, do merchant of record or do it yourself and have to build your own payment stack. One of the things that we've always had in the app world that SaaS businesses, web-first businesses haven't had, is we've had Apple or Google to be the merchant of records. They deal with all of the complicated sales tax and currency management. They deal with, you know, all of the buyer support and chargebacks and refunds, as well as payments. And suddenly, if we want to now take payments on the web, we have to remember there's all of those things that comprise a good payment stack and a compliant payment stack.
Have you got me still, Matt?
Yeah, we've got. Yeah, you sounded briefly like a bit of an alien or a robot. So maybe you're an AI. I don't know, but
maybe I am. Maybe I am.
Yeah.
My wife would be delighted if that was the case.
We've got your back.
You know, the challenge is that you start on this journey and you throw up you use a payment service provider, Stripe or similar, and then suddenly you face all of these problems as soon as you start selling in different regions, and you've got to now retroactively build out the rest of this stack. And so, you know, having been web native for a decade, we hold that entire merchant of record that replicates the functionality of the App Store in terms of dealing with all of these issues that you see on the right-hand side in one single provider. So yeah, I'm not going to labor this. My main exhortation to everyone here is, if you're playing with web revenue, think about what happens as you start scaling, because you don't have to keep rebuilding this. Cool. So with that quick summary, and I don't want to take too long because I do want to pass over to Ed for the fun stuff. Obviously, Runner, a joint customer of ourselves, a RevenueCat. This is a quick quote from Miranda. They're a great UK success story, now part of Strava. I've just included the onboarding flow there as you pop up the web view in order to do a web purchase. And it's been great working with consumer apps like them on building their web revenue to balance their revenue across multiple different platforms, as well as achieve the benefits we spoke about before. There are three things that I think are really important for us to focus on as we're building out these web channels. We need to be frictionless, familiar, and fast. So let's just quickly focus on being familiar first. It's important that we
mobile native buying journey. Oh, I've lost you again, Matt. Gone again, Matt?
We can still hear you. It just sounds like maybe the audio is coming through a different feed, but we've still got you. Okay, no, now we don't. now we can't hear you.
We're back now.
We're back.
Wonderful. So we need to be familiar, mobile native payment options, Apple Pay, Google Pay, and matching the user experience. That's really important. Secondly, we want to make sure we're being transparent about everything we're doing here. You can see here just offering very clear plans. It's important that we're being clear to the user so that they're not getting duped, and also making sure that when we come to those retention and renewal points, they feel they've built trust. And then on that retention and renewal point, part of that stack of things you need to build for the payment infrastructure as you scale is your retention capability. And I really believe it's important to plan for churn from day one, rather than think about that in 30 days or in 90 days or in 365 days, depending on your plan length. And by planning for churn from day one, you can make sure that you are able to downgrade people onto a different plan or pause their plan. And we can do a whole session on cancellation flows for anyone that's that's interested. And we work with a bunch of pretty scaled apps who have been able to save hundreds of thousands of dollars by making sure they have good cancellation flows built into their web purchase journeys. Right. I don't want to go on, and my audio is dropping in and out. So Ed, we've talked a lot about some of the quick benefits here. The key thing is to keep experimenting and experimenting and experimenting. That's one of the benefits of a web channel. You can do that very, very often. And obviously, we would love people to do this with Paddle and RevenueCat to get the benefit of everything RevenueCat has to offer and this merchant of record, so you can scale compliantly around the world and sell in every region with the right currencies, the right payment methods, and all the rest of those benefits. So with that very quick intro, Ed, I'm very happy to hand over to you to do the fun stuff.
Thanks, Andrew. Ed,
Cool.
before you, sorry, I'm gonna jump in very quickly before we dive into the demo, because Andrew, I think you touched on a couple of points there that have come up in previous sessions that I wanted to make sure we clarified before we dive into the demo. So I know we've talked. There's been a lot of talk about the ruling, and we're probably all kind of sick of that and talking about how things have changed. But just to reiterate what happened and what has changed, could you just very, very briefly talk about the Epic versus Apple ruling and just what that meant for iOS developers in the US briefly, just to make sure everybody's clear, because I can still see in Discord we get some questions about this: what is allowed, what isn't allowed. So yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this has been a 10-year journey. The emergence of cross-platform apps started really back in 2014, 2015. We saw web-to-app flows, Noom and Flow and others build out this in 2021. So this isn't a new thing. Epic versus Apple happened in 2021. Epic Games sued Apple, and a US judge ruled that Apple can't block external payments for in-app purchases. And actually, our founder, Christian, testified in that court case in the San Francisco High Court. But Apple basically that's been a saga for the last 3 or 4 years, which we've seen resolve in 2025, where now they've been ruled against again to make sure that they are compliant in spirit as well as just in the letter of the law. And then there's been extra changes in the EU. So effectively now you are able to take payments outside of the App Store without suffering the fees that were traditionally there. And we're seeing many developers experiment with that as a result of the last 6 months of ruling.
Yeah, super. I think that's a really great summary, because there was a question that Ed has already replied to. I can't spotlight it on the screen because Ed has answered it already. He's one step ahead of me. But yeah, that is it in a nutshell. So, and I think for developers that are building as part of Shipaton, or people that are taking part, I think that's the key point, is that now you can experiment with this new channel. You can direct people, if it's in the US and you're on iOS, you can direct people out of your app to collect payment on the web. And so yeah, something that before wasn't possible is now possible. Lots more information on that ruling and kind of the background on the RevenueCat blog. We also ran an experiment. So RevenueCat owns an app called Dipsy. We acquired it, I think it was end of last year. And one of the reasons we acquired Dipsy was to be able to run experiments and kind of share learnings from a real world, real life successful app. And so we ran an experiment to kind of show the impact of offering both in-app purchases as well as a web checkout, kind of in isolation and side by side, and how that impacts things like conversion and subscriber stickiness. And so that's also something that I would definitely recommend people go and have a look at. If this is all brand new to you and you're typically used to just interacting with the app stores, then lots of useful kind of context and content there too. So I'll add the link in a second in the chat. But yeah, thank you, Andrew. Super helpful. I'm sure I'm going to have more questions for you in a moment, so we'll let you take a breath. But yeah, Ed, if we could hand over to you now to kind of run through a demo, talk a little bit more about the kind of new feature that we released with Paddle as well, that'd be great.
Yeah, thanks, and thanks, Andrew. That's I think a great context on the why part of this, and especially with the changes that we talked about in the US. I think the biggest takeaway for me in the past few months, this is something I believe I'm also having the same weird audio issue, but I hope you can still hear me, so I'm just going to keep talking. The realization that definitely our team has had is that nobody has kind of concrete answers or clear black and white rules on this yet, and we're in a space where really everybody is experimenting. And the thing we're trying to do, obviously, at RevenueCat, in kind of providing these tools and kind of shipping those as quickly as possible and putting them into developers' hands, is making sure that you guys can actually do that experimentation and kind of carve your own path through this space. And yeah, I'm sure it will continue to change in the coming months. Like that's without a doubt. So with that said, I wanted to quickly kind of walk through some of the kind of how of this, assuming you're building an app, you're using the RevenueCat platform, you're probably serving in-app purchases, most likely subscriptions, but maybe not. I wanted to kind of walk you through how you would go from that setup to using our new web purchase button to serve a paywall that also has a web purchase link attached to it that uses Paddle as a checkout. So the goal that we had with this setup is to really give you like the shortest path possible from having a mobile app within our purchases and a RevenueCat paywall to adding a web checkout where, again, like as Andrew said, you don't have to think about like sales tax registrations or compliance. You can just sell super easily using Paddle's embedded checkout, and also redirect your users back to the app afterwards. So, and obviously I'll demo the flow at the end of this, but I think you'll see that it's pretty fast and it's a pretty efficient way to kind of funnel users out to the web and then also back again into the app. Just to quickly give some context, since you may not be aware, we have a thing called RevenueCat Web. RevenueCat Web is kind of an area of RevenueCat that personally I work on along with the web team. RevenueCat Web is a set of tools, and we have a mission to kind of, whereas the rest of RevenueCat is focused on helping apps make more money. Generally, we're focused on helping apps make more money by adding web monetization. And so we're trying to kind of unlock the power and additional flexibility that you get by billing on the web. Obviously, the app stores have a certain set of constraints around whether it be like pricing options or like subscription logic. That all goes away as soon as you start monetizing on the web. And our mission is to kind of take all of that flexibility and make it accessible to people that are building mobile apps. The other thing that I think is key here is if you're building a mobile app and you want to add web payments, or you're doing cross-platform in general, RevenueCat is a really easy way to kind of unify entitlements across all of the platforms that you're offering. And that is often like one of the trickier parts of kind of dealing with multi-platform development in general, is that you need to make sure that like access to features and things like subscription status are accessible and consistent across all of those platforms. RevenueCat Web has two integration paths. We have a low-code hosted payment flow, which we call web purchase links, and that's what we're actually going to focus on today for this demo. We also have a web SDK separately to that, which allows you to deliver a much more customizable experience. This is, I would say, less focused on app to web and more focused on actual kind of rich web applications. And so if you're doing kind of a web to app flow, you might have like a rich web app where you want to integrate the web SDK. We also have some other features that make it easier to just share links and accept purchases, and then have those purchases kind of redeemed in the native app, which helps when you want to kind of freely share links to checkout, to kind of hosted checkouts on social and through other channels. And there's a feature there called redemption links that we've also shipped. So yeah, focusing on the now then. So our goal here is to implement app-to-web purchases using the RevenueCat Paddle integration. And this is roughly what this process looks like. I put a QR code here to the full docs. Like we have an end-to-end guide, which literally walks you through every step. There's obviously things that are a little too in the weeds to cover it in this session. In general, so what we're going to do is, I'm assuming that you've probably already integrated and configured the RevenueCat SDK on iOS. We're just focused on iOS here, mostly because our web purchase button just supports that today, and that is obviously where we have the opportunity to link out to external purchases freely in the US on iOS. By the way, Matt or Perttu, if I skip over anything here, feel free to like question me or kind of fill in any context. Then we're going to connect Paddle as a payment provider. So I'll show you what that looks like. And then we essentially have already created some products on Paddle. This integration, what it looks like is Paddle is the subscription billing engine. So any subscription products and prices that you create are all managed entirely within Paddle, and we import those products and prices into RevenueCat. We then create an offering, which is essentially our kind of container for serving those products to the user, and we can combine our mobile in-app purchase products from the App Store with the web products that we import from Paddle. And then we kind of bundle all of that up and create a paywall to present that offering to the user, which will again have in-app purchase plus the web purchase button. We'll add that web purchase button, which will be configured to link directly out to the Paddle checkout. And then I'll quickly show you kind of a test use case for like walking through that flow and seeing how it works. So yeah, final, just like a little bit of a more kind of visual overview of this flow. We have a paywall here on iOS that has a web purchase button on it. This is the bit that we've added recently to allow you to easily link out to web purchases. We'll then open the full Safari.
Ed, we've lost your audio. I think it might be Livestorm randomly deciding to connect to your phone. Is that what was happening? Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening, and I'm not sure how, other than throwing my phone to the other side of the room, how I can prevent it.
I had a message.
It wasn't just me.
Yeah, Charlie was like, yeah, I switch off my phone every time I go on one of these live streams, which is a top tip I wasn't aware of. So shall I literally?
I'm literally turning off my phone, so I can't do that. So thanks for the tip, Charlie. Yeah, so we have some questions about whether it's actually allowed to open kind of an in-app browser to process web payments. The current status of that is you are not, and generally we see apps being rejected from the store for doing that. This might change, but right now we're only opening like the full Safari. That opens our web purchase link, which is our hosted checkout, which is on RevenueCat domain, but it also embeds the Paddle checkout, so you can users can complete the purchase. After completion, we configure a custom URL scheme redirect, which is our way of kind of bouncing the user back into the native app at the end. So that redirect will immediately nudge the user back into your app, and you don't have to deal with kind of how you guide them after the purchase or like telling them to go somewhere else. We kind of handle that for you. And then, yeah, just to clarify, we're obviously creating a Paddle billing subscription here. So as I said, Paddle is kind of orchestrating that subscription, and any further updates or changes that happen to it are synced from Paddle directly using our integration. So that is the place you would go to kind of manage those subscriptions. It is not time for QA. It is time for me to pop out of the slide deck here. So yeah, the first thing to mention is I have a Sandbox Paddle account here. In Paddle, Sandbox is a completely separate environment, so you need to sign up and create a Sandbox account directly. I have a product here in Paddle with some prices. And in Paddle's model, prices are kind of the direct thing that maps to products in the RevenueCat world. So you can see here, I've got a $100 annual plan and a $12.99 monthly plan. The monthly plan has a 30-day trial attached. Yeah, this is a fairly straightforward like subscription product. The other thing I just want to point out is when you're configuring this, there is a field here called price name, which is the thing that is actually presented to the user in the checkout. So that is your one thing that is kind of, you should give some consideration to. If I head back to the RevenueCat dashboard, which for some reason is not loaded, but I'll reload. Nice, it knows that I'm doing a live demo, so.
Well, you just got all the tech gremlins today in the live.
It's beautiful. I embrace it personally. It's extra challenge, right? So there, we're in the RevenueCat dashboard. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is look at how you would connect Paddle. So here in the dashboard, you have an apps and providers section. This is where you also connect your App Store and your Google Play Store accounts. We also have web configurations here, which includes RevenueCat's own billing system and any other web integrations. If we add a web config here, you can see that we have the option to add Paddle. The setup here, I won't walk through this completely, but essentially you just need to paste in your Paddle API key. There's a couple of options around purchase tracking. I would recommend sticking with the automatic method where all the updates are done server to server. And then on our side, we need to know how we should identify the app user ID when those server to server purchases come through. In most cases, it's better to use the auto-generated user IDs. So you'll see users showing up in RevenueCat with like anonymous app user IDs that have been generated. You just need to be able to handle that on your side. And there's some docs I can link to help with that. Okay, so we assume then that we've created the Paddle connection. If I go to the product catalog, if I scroll down through the very many test accounts here, I'm just going to find the one. Yeah, so here's my Paddle connection that I just created. And you'll see here that I've already imported the two products that I just pointed to on the Paddle side. As soon as that connection is created, you have the opportunity to import products here. So I would click this import button. It will automatically go and find products in Paddle, or rather prices in Paddle that I can import. There's one additional price here that I haven't yet imported, but I'm not using that one. The others are already showing up here. So that's all good. What we're going to do now is create an offering so that we can package up those products and create a paywall and actually present that to the user. So if I go again to the product catalog and offerings, I want to add a new offering. I'm going to type a few things in to identify this. And then we want to create one package per price that we had. So we want a monthly package and an annual package. So let's create the monthly one first. And then what you need to do in each of these packages is select a native product. So in this case, because it's on iOS, here's the iOS App Store connection that I've already created. I'm going to select my monthly iOS product there. And then from the Paddle connection that I made, I want to select the monthly product from there as well. So we have our monthly package. Oops, I should have actually continued here and created a yearly one. Excuse me while I just quickly select these. So there's yearly for the iOS and additionally my premium yearly. Okay, so now we've got a package for monthly and a package for yearly. Actually, somehow I've actually selected two paddle products here. Let me just fix that. Oh, I know what I did. I actually didn't add the monthly one. Let's save that. Okay, so we're good now. Here's our 2 packages. Next step is to create a web purchase link, which is giving us the hosted checkout. And there's going to be a few things that I can configure here as well. First thing I need to configure is to choose the payment provider for this web purchase link. And there's some fields here related to landing pages that actually, I'll explain in a second, are not really relevant because we're actually linking directly to the checkout. And we can also put links to terms and conditions. What is important on the web purchase link is that I tell it to redirect after the purchase success. So this is where we want to bump the user back into the app. So there's 2 options here. One is to show a default success page, which is RevenueCat's success page. The other one is like a custom redirect. Now, what we want to do here is actually switch over to my Xcode project, because what I have in the Xcode project is a configured URL scheme. This is in the documentation page that I linked to. I won't go like super deep into that now, but having a URL scheme means I have the ability to redirect to that URL scheme that is registered in the app and will open the native app after the purchase. Some other settings around repeat purchase behavior, but generally that's everything that I need in order to create the web purchase link. As soon as you create the web purchase link, you actually have a sandbox URL that you can access, which will take you to that purchase flow. We obviously don't want to use that because we want to link from a paywall. So now let's go and create a paywall. When I create a paywall, I need to select the offering. Now I need to remember which one it was. I'm going to go back to the page here. Sorry, bear with me a second. What did can somebody remember what I called the offering? I think I called it Shipaton. Okay. So here's my Shipaton offering. I'm going to add a paywall for that offering. Obviously, we have our beautiful templates here. I'm not going to start from scratch because nobody's interested in watching me trying to build a thing from scratch here. I'm actually going to find a template that already includes a web purchase button because we have some of those. So here's my recipe template, and you'll see this is the Shipaton paywall. If you look at the packages here, they should be hooked up to the packages on the offering. My annual one is selected by default. And the red button at the bottom here is my web purchase button. So you can see if I select that, it's configured for a web purchase. There's some other options here, like going directly to the product selection, which would take you to the hosted web product selection. But actually, because we have our package selection here in the paywall, we just want to go directly to the purchase. So I'm going to configure that. And I'm going to publish it. And then the final thing I'm going to do here is walk over and see if we can make a purchase. So if I minimize these, here I have my iOS simulator, and I'm using the RevenueCat paywall tester app. You can actually test paywalls now in the main RevenueCat app. So that's a good way to test your purchase when you're doing sandbox purchasing. You can see here when I open the app, all of the paywalls that I have published are here. So if I click on the Shipaton one, this is what we've just created. We've got our 2 packages, and we've got the web purchase button, which should link directly out to the hosted checkout. So this is the experience that your subscribers would see. You can see we're on the pay.rev.cat domain. We're immediately into the paddle checkout. And so this means that now we have complete flexibility to change what payment methods are available. We can configure things related to the product that are also configurable on the paddle side, and those would show up here as well. Obviously, taxes are calculated here because that's something that Paddle just does for you out of the box. So because I'm in Sandbox, I can actually go ahead and complete this purchase with my trusty test card numbers. I don't think name matters. Yeah, so here we're creating a free trial followed by a $12.99 monthly subscription. That pricing may or may not make sense, but obviously, in general, we see that giving some incentive to users to go and do the web purchase is useful at like driving more conversions. You obviously need to balance that with the kind of economics of your subscriptions and price points. So yeah, let's complete the payment. Safari wants to remember the card. And then immediately after the purchase, this is the custom URL scheme being triggered. And so we get bumped back into the app, which in this case is our paywall tester app. Here you'd have the opportunity to provide a custom experience for your users. And actually, as a final step, if I just dig out the browser, we should actually be able to see this transaction. So I'm looking at my Sandbox data here. We can see a purchase that's just come in with the store as Paddle. We can see the product information, and we can see that it's a free trial. And yeah, so these subscribers show up exactly as like a RevenueCat subscription would within the dashboard, and you can do all the monitoring there on the kind of revenue reporting side as well. Taking a breath, I think that was everything I wanted to cover. Are there any questions, Matt, from your side, or anything else I should dig into here?
Yeah, that was awesome. But yes is the short answer. I've actually got a lot of questions here. So maybe some like quick fire ones on the kind of more technical side, and then Andrew, there's a couple here I think that would be good for you to answer. So yeah, just as part of that flow. So where would so a user that subscribes that way, where do they go to manage their subscription if they once they've gone through the checkout?
Yeah, so that would all be through Paddle's customer portal, like. Which I believe is linked from the transactional emails. Andrew, apologies if I'm getting this wrong. There's a hosted customer portal that Paddle has, which is the place to go to kind of either change or cancel their subscription. So that would all be on the Paddle side.
Okay, cool. And then I think you touched on this, but the customizing the checkout experience, that's done on the Paddle side right now. Is that right? Or is that's yeah.
So the way we've configured this, and this is actually thanks to the flexibility of our web purchase links, you're actually not really seeing any RevenueCat user interface in that flow, because we're pre-selecting the package on the paywall side, and we're navigating you straight to Paddle. So any options for customization for that flow would be in Paddle. We actually have the ability, and I can actually quickly, if I can get back to my offering again. So there should be the option here. Sorry, bear with me as I. Yeah, so in your payment provider, the connection that I did initially to Paddle, we actually have some affordances here for like previewing the experience. This is more relevant if you're doing web to app, because then you can use our package selection. Here's where you can customize the pieces that are kind of RevenueCat UI. And obviously, we show you here which pieces are managed by Paddle, including the customer portal and the lifecycle emails. So you could go and kind of customize those on the Paddle side.
Awesome. And then a question from Trent, which I'll put on the screen. So can I attach a dynamic custom attribute to the web purchase button launched by a RevenueCat in-app paywall, have it pass via the paywall SDK to Paddle, and surface in RevenueCat's purchase event WebSocket? I need a bridge for app to web tracking.
Mm-hmm. That is a great question. So we do support custom attributes in web purchase links. So you can pass arbitrary parameters through there. I would actually have to check on the web purchase button side if there's the ability to use that and pass parameters through. But I can definitely kind of come back on that one. I don't want to say for sure.
Awesome. Hopefully a quick, easy one from Mantus. Can web purchases be done on Android as well, or is it just iOS only?
Yeah, the short answer is we're working on it. This is a kind of evolving space. There's actually some ruling in the EU at the moment that is enforcing some like affordances for web purchasing, but it's still very, very strict. So for example, I think if you deliver like an external purchase link, you have to not use any Play Store purchasing at all. So you have to not use IAP. We're hoping to add a web purchase button for Android as well. But to be honest, right now, I think it's very difficult for developers to use that outside of some really narrow use cases, or it's very difficult for it to make sense. So yes, we're working on it. And I think it will change still in the future.
Okay, awesome. Got a question here from Andy. Oh, this is every person that works in product, their favorite type of question related to roadmap and having to commit or not commit to something. So this one is about whether in the future we might be able to manage subscriptions via Paddle through RevenueCat's customer center feature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. Our philosophy on this is we want to be kind of as flexible as possible and kind of provider agnostic. And our customer center already includes purchases from different platforms. So yes, I don't see why we can't also add the Paddle purchases there as well. It's just a case of us. So we prioritize the web purchase button as kind of an early slice of this, and we still kind of have a beta label on that. I think there are other pieces of this that we'll be building out in the coming months, especially around web to app as well. So yes, I think that will be there eventually.
Awesome. Okay, great. And then a few questions that I've just been mopping up from Discord. So this one is, I think we've had this question a few times over the last few weeks as well. Andrew, definitely interested in your take on this. So when we were showing the web purchase button, we had the kind of rudimentary save 30% by going and making your purchase on the web. And kind of that assumption is because you're saving the 30% fee, you could discount your price by that amount. But in reality, like how should people that are maybe testing and experimenting this for the first time think about pricing a subscription that users are going to pay for through the web via what they pay if they go down the in-app purchase route?
Yeah, I mean, this really comes back to what you're optimizing for. Are you trying to specifically move people across to the web because you've got a philosophy that you're going to have higher retention there, or there's another reason for doing that? Or is this just part of an experiment you're running and you want to test multiple things? So I think there's really three approaches we're seeing. The first one is kind of parity pricing, where you're actually offering exactly the same and trying to keep it really clear for the user that they can do it both ways and it's a benefit to them both ways because they can just choose what they want. Then there's the web discounted model, which is exactly what we saw here. It doesn't have to be the whole 30%. It could be a whole range of different things you're experimenting with there. And that's usually when you're trying to drive people across there for a strategic goal. Or you could look at some form of packaging option where there's actually perhaps, often we see people when they have more B2B offerings move people onto web for team plans or plans that involve other features that might be correlated with more business or team usage. And so they're using packaging in order to move people across. So you can't get those on something that's only going to be bought in app. So there's a bunch of different ways you can look at that. And definitely it depends on who you're targeting. It depends on what your goal is. But we are not seeing most of the apps that are using Paddle are not just dropping the fee and using that as the primary way to move across. They're trying to get a margin gain here as well.
Yeah,
but that might be a margin gain on the overall renewal and retention. It might not just be on the initial checkout. Yeah,
that's a good point. So on that, what have you seen? Like what experiments have you seen people running? So once they've added web payments, what have you seen them experiment with? And maybe Perttu, Ed, you've got some examples on this as well. But I'm just kind of thinking from somebody that's thinking about doing this for the first time, what would be a good place to start experiment wise?
Yeah, by default is just to start with parity. and then see what happens as you go through that renewal journey. But that's just because often I think the comms to the user is often what you're optimizing for here. You just want to keep it really clean and simple. But again, it depends. Perttu, you might have a different approach there.
No, I would pretty much agree with that. So priority first, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe on. Sorry.
No, you go for it.
I was just going to say, like, maybe on top of that, I think the thing we're starting to see, and I think it's still too early to. There's no like blueprint or rule book here yet. I think if you think about it from a subscriber perspective, you probably need some kind of incentive to nudge users over to web, because regardless of how frictionless it is, they still need to click that button and go and pay in a separate place. What that incentive is still, it could just be, I've seen also adding a free trial on the web and not having a free trial on IAP. Like that can be enough, you know?
And it's obviously important to look at what flow we're talking about here. Is it app to web or web to app? It's in the situation where it's web to app and we're marketing to them, maybe they're coming from an ad to a landing page, there isn't a comparison in their mind versus the app store cost. And therefore, this conversation of is it $9.99 or both is moot, because you're driving them to a separate channel and they're very unlikely to go and do a price comparison.
Yeah. Okay, super. Ed, I think this one is for you. So now that RevenueCat paywall support offer codes, I'm wondering whether a paddle checkout could be configured to accept custom codes. And then as part of that, would RevenueCat surface that offer code in the WebSocket event, even if it came from paddle?
Yeah, this is super ambitious and I'm probably not allowed to talk about it, but we have big visions for how we can make kind of offer codes or promo codes much more universal in the future, because I think the solution here is obvious, that you can kind of create coupons in a single place and then like either issue platform specific codes or like have truly universal codes. We're a little bit limited on the App Store side there, obviously, but on the web, it's definitely possible. So hypothetically, yes, but this would be an in the future thing, and we're hoping to ship something there in the next, let's say, year.
Nice. Well handled. Okay. All right, great. So I mean, we're almost at time. So I don't see any other questions in the chat or from Discord. So yeah, Andrew, Ed, Perttu, anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up? Anything else you want to add that we haven't touched on?
The main thing from my side is that we're seeing a lot of people look at checkout conversion as their primary judgment metric. And I think you've got to look at the entire flow of what happens as people go and convert and then use, and then whether they retain or not. So my main advice is to make sure you're measuring the cumulative effect of those various different conversion points, rather than just looking at checkout conversion solely. Checkout conversion is super important, particularly if you're on an acquisition bent, but really make sure that you're judging the quality of those user cohorts, rather than just whether they converted highly on that very first click.
I would add one thing when it comes to releasing your app, or let's say that you've already released the app, because Apple is a bit of a specific about these things, the web subscription specifically. During Shipaton, the way you should approach this is that you first build the app, perhaps even without in-app purchases at all, and you release it in that version, just to get it through and know that your app like passes everything else. Then at in-app purchases, submit it for review. If that goes through, all good. You don't necessarily have to release it yet, but then work on the web subscription, adding those, for example. So that way you always have something you can release in case you run into problems with Apple being specific about something.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Ed, anything from you?
Please experiment and share your findings. We're all figuring this out together on the iOS side, at least. And yeah, we'd be interested to kind of work with anyone who's run some experiments around this and what they've discovered. So yeah, exciting times.
Awesome. All right, well, we're at the top of the hour, so we'll draw it to a close there. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you very much for doing it. I know you got back from holiday like this morning, your time. So thank you for jumping on and running this. Super helpful to hear from you and have you on this. So thank you, and also thank you to Paddle for being a sponsor of Shipaton. So if you aren't aware already, Paddle have been kind enough to include a special offer for people taking part in Shipaton, details of which are in your ship kit that you get sent when you sign up. We also have members, I think I mentioned at the top, we have members of the Paddle team in the Discord channel. So any problems or issues accessing that offer, or if you need any more support on anything related to Paddle or the web, Discord is the place to go. You'll find RevenueCat people and Paddle people in there ready to help you. A quick plug for Thursday. We're back on Thursday morning, Pacific time, lunchtime, East Coast, and evening UK. So we're back with a surprise. He is a surprise, Charlie. he's come to take control back from us. So yeah, Charlie, why don't you tell everybody where you are and what's coming on Thursday?
Yeah, I'm. You can probably hear it in the background here. I'm coming at you from gate E8 at SFO in San Francisco on my way home from all the travel. But yes, Thursday, Vahe. I actually don't know how to pronounce his last name. I'm realizing he's going to join us. He is like a super expert at paywall design, and basically, I'm just going to use it as a way to ask him a million questions. But all of you can join as well and ask them questions. And then Mobbin, I think I'm pronouncing that right. They are another sponsor of the Shipaton, and they're going to join and show you how you can use their platform to help you with design, and in particular, paywall design. So yeah, that's what we got going on. Yeah, I couldn't help but jump in.
Oh, it's nice. It's nice to see you back. It's nice to see your face back on one of these live streams. So yeah, that's great. So safe travels, Charlie. Safe travels getting home. Andrew, Ed, Perttu, thank you again for joining. And yeah, we'll see everyone else very soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.